Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to Heartset Mindset Reset. I'm so excited to be here with all of you this morning. We have an amazing special guest, and we are starting this year off so strong. This year, we're going to start off Mindset Heartset Reset with a well-being and mental health series. Because what we know about the new year is many of you have gone out there, you've set your New Year's resolutions, and those are hard to keep. You know, we have these big expectations of what a new year may look like. You've set some big goals, you've set some intentions to get the day going or to get the year going. And a lot of times after the first week, those intentions and those resolutions that we want to make, they start to fall through the cracks. So we're happy to have everybody here from YouTube, from Facebook, and our live stream, obviously, from Humanity's team. We're excited to, instead of setting those resolutions with you, we're looking at the practices that keep us connected, the practices that keep us grounded, the practices that we can implement into our life every day that are going to make you the best version of yourself. The ones that are going to keep you centered, the ones that are going to keep you fully alive, the ones that are going to help you stay connected and grounded in who you are versus getting lost in what's going on in the world right now. Because what we know right now, it's not only easy to get distracted, but it's easy to get distracted in the energy and the frequency that's happening on our planet at the moment. So this is going to be our opportunity, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest in just a few minutes. It's going to be our opportunity to stay grounded in your own life and your own world, because the best way we can create peace, the best way that we can create freedom for all, the best way we can create and share more love in our world, which is really what we need right now, is for us to start with ourselves. And if every individual in this world started with themselves and found the peace, found their own mindset, were able to reset and begin to live your best life, thriving every day, that's the way that we can spread that. We can create that ripple and help each other thrive in a world that needs each of us as much as we can right now to be as centered in love as we can. So I'm going to start with letting everybody know what the show is going to be about today, and then we're going to move into a small introduction and our guest, because I'm so excited to share with you our guest and who we have with us today. So Mindset Heartset Reset, for many of you that have been with us already, and for those of you that are new, this is a dynamic live weekly show. We really love to provoke introspection. We like to cultivate compassion and spark positive change, not only in you, but the world around you as well. Through insightful discussions, amazing guests that we have that create practical tools. They share their authentic stories, and it helps us empower our own mindset, open our heart, and create new connections. It gives us all the courage to hit that reset button in our own lives. And our mission is simple with Mindset Heartset Reset. It's to expand love at a global scale with a vision to shift humanity's future into one in which we can all thrive. Now, today, my name is Jacqueline Way. I am your host. We will be joined very shortly with my co-host, Dr. Roshanak Hashimun. She's just working on some technical challenges in Europe at the moment, but she will be popping in very shortly. I sit on the advisory board for Humanity's team, which I feel very honored for. And I have my own charitable organization called 365 Give. And our mission is very simple, and it's to inspire and empower the hearts and minds of people at a global scale to give. And we really believe that giving is love in action. It's our true nature, and we get to give that out to the world every day. And I'll introduce Dr. Roshanak when she comes in with us, and we're going to move into why we're here today, because there couldn't be a more setting guest to have and to start with to kick off this season, because we really want to kick off this month and the fundamentals of how we can really set the stage for the new year for us is we have to start with our own energy. We have to become the masters of our own life. And to do that, we need some special guests. And our special guest today is going to be Ting Ting Guan. And Ting Ting Guan is the creator of a method called the GuanJing Method. And she's going to help us all discover how we can channel and replenish our life force and keep ourselves grounded, vibrant, and resilient every day through the practice we're going to talk about today. Her novel practice is an effective approach to navigating our life challenges and to release emotional blockages. I can't wait to dive into that one today and help us heal and expand ourselves exponentially. And this way we're going to be able to live a happier and healthier life. So we're going to start with a little introduction video, and then we're going to bring Ting Ting to the stage. So this video is going to give you an idea of what Ting Ting does. And what we're really excited about here at Humanities Team is that Ting Ting has very graciously created a new masterclass for Humanities Team. It's going to be free for everyone, and you're going to be able to start to access that this week. So we're bringing Ting Ting in today so that you're going to get a chance to get to know her. You'll see in the link there's going to be Ting Ting's masterclass. We encourage you to sign up for that today so that you don't miss your spot, so that you're going to be part of this transformative, it's literally movement art. And I'm not going to tell you any more about it because we're going to hear from Ting Ting. But first, we're just going to roll a little bit of film. I need you to see Ting Ting in action because it's absolutely remarkable. Jim, I'll leave it to you.
Claim each part of your body as an altar space for manifestation. Claim your fingertips to your tippy toes. Claim the parts that you love and the parts that you wish to love more. Claim your freckles, your wrinkles, and your scars. Claim your bones, your muscles, your organs, and blood. It is all yours. We each have a body, but how many of us are embodied? How often do we see the vessel of flesh and bone as a perfect space of divine creation? What happens when we bring our soul's intention and attention into these places? Imagine each cell of your being having the power to manifest and move from that place. The adornments of your altar are not jewels or gold, but they are your breath and spirit. They need not be seen. They are embodied and felt. Claim the sacred space within you.
Wow. Ting Ting, welcome to our show. We're so happy to have you with us. Namaste. Thank you for being with us today. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much for having me. This feels like such a beautiful way to start off the new year.
Well, I think it's the perfect way to start the new year. And even better, my co-host, Dr. Roshanak Hashimun, has now joined us on the stage. How are you, Dr. Roshanak? Nice to have you with us.
Hello. Please accept my apologies. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jacqueline, for getting us going. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Ting Ting, so excited to have this room, this time, this space with you and talk about how we can start our year off knowing how to manage our energy and get right off on the right foot into flow. Thank you so much for being here with us. Jacqueline, I send it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Ting Ting, we want to get right into the first questions. We're excited to hear all about your work, how it started for you. And most importantly, I'd really love to start from the beginning. We want to know your story and what brought you to creating this method. Because I think that's such an important part of all of our journeys is, where have you come from and how did you get to this? Because we'd love to hear that and share that with our audience.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a great question because if you told me, 5-6 years ago, hey, you're going to start your own movement practice and people are going to love it and you're going to be talking and on interviews about it, then I'd have been like, what are you talking about? But it's the way that life is, right? Giving into that natural flow of life where it's directing you and trusting in the signs, trusting in the little gifts and the little sprinklings of dust, of fairy dust that the universe gives us. So a few years ago, I was very devoted into yoga, and my whole identity was I'm a yoga teacher. This is what I do. I host meditation retreats, and I wanted to bring this movement over to the LA, and it was very, very successful in Bali, where I had been based. And once I got to LA, all the doors for this totally shut down. And it completely destroyed my ego. I go, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be sharing my gifts? Is this something that people still want to give to be a part of? And it brought me into a really deep depression. And through that, I had this incredible amount of pressure, incredible amount of frustration and tension that started to really, really compound in my body in a way that I have never experienced before. It was crippling. And I sat down, I remember sitting down in front of this big deck, and I allowed myself to completely surrender to it, to instead of trying to push past it and force my way through it in the direction that I wanted to go, my ego and my mind wanted me to go, I decided to completely give in to that feeling. And it started creating these movements, and I started to go into a very hypnotic state. And after I was finished, I felt a lot of a deeper trust in myself, in the universe, in timing, in the timing of things. And all of that weight seemed to wash away. And so I thought, okay, this was a really great feeling. I want to keep feeling this. So I started practicing in the park and at the beach, in public places. And that's when every time, of course, the universe always gives us signs. Every time I opened my eyes, people were staring at me going, that looks so cool. I want to try. How do I learn? What is this called? And so I figured, okay, I hear you, universe. You're giving me very clear signs. And so from there, that's how it started developing and growing. And here we are.
Thank you. Sorry, I was stuck on mute there for a minute. Dr. Roshanak.
Also stuck on mute. Is Mercury in retrograde? Thank you.
It's the energy. We're the energy.
There you go. I love how you shared that story in being able to help our audience to understand that life and this beautiful energy flow is about allowing things to come to us while engaging. And I think that's a beautiful reflection of the form that you have created, which includes or is inspired by elements of Tai Chi and Qigong, and is unstructured yet purposeful, allowing things to come to us, but also allowing us to move through what is inside of us, our internal environment and our external environment. There's a real science to what you provide. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind maybe helping us to understand first what differentiates your beautiful form, GuanJing, from other forms, and to speak a little bit to this idea of having unstructured yet purposeful movement that allows our unconscious mind and the expression of what's going on with us in our body to connect, and then to be able to move that energy that allows us to move into that state of flow. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yes. You know, I love studying all different types of philosophies. I love merging the science with these more ethereal, more energetic qualities. And so when I was going into why I felt so much better and that sense of relief, it's from the theory that the body is the unconscious mind. And now there's more evidence than ever that share and show that, yes, we do hold our past and our traumas within parts of the body. And so everything from somatic therapy and yoga nidra, all of that stuff, all have a very valid point and are very beautiful. And so the difference between what I am sharing versus, say, Qigong or Tai Chi is that we're allowing a little bit of freedom with how we're expressing as we're moving. Yes, there's the foundational sort of posture and the flow, but it's very important to bring your nuance, the way that you feel the texture of energy as it moves through space, your hands move through space, and what you're feeling is really, really important, because now you're tuning into your unique energy system, which is different from everybody else's. We all feel things in a different way. We all hold in different parts of our bodies. And when we're moving in these spiraling circular shapes, which is the foundation of GuanJing, we're connecting to that sacred geometry of life. Everything in life has come from this beautiful sequence, that from the leaf of a plant to the seashell to our breath to our lungs, it's all this fractal sacred geometry formation. So we're connecting to that as we're moving in circular ways. And yet we have an individual nuance to that movement. And so it's a little more feminine, I would say, in a way where you're allowing yourself to fully release your neck. Yoga and qigong are much more masculine in the way that we hold the body. It's all very linear. It's very static. And so giving into that flow within yourself, within the elements of nature, within your breath, within your feeling, really is almost as if you were stirring the elixir of like primal life force energy itself, and you're choosing how to stir your pot. So that's essentially how that's different, and how I merged the science with the energetics.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to ask you if you could, well, let's just clarify first for the audience. There's feminine and masculine energy, which is not to be confused with being feminine or masculine.
Mhm.
So each of us has both the feminine and masculine energy within us. The feminine energy being more unstructured and free flowing, and being more of that knowing, that internal sort of intuition that we have, that gives us this unsought after, at least not consciously and actively, knowledge, this know, I call it the knowing.
Mhm.
And then there's the masculine energy that is the structured and linear. And we need both, because if you have just the feminine, that can wreak havoc. And we have just the masculine, then we're very slow moving and don't have the benefit of all of that information that's within us. So the combining of the two is really what allows us to be incredibly successful, move forward, be in flow, all those good things. So just clarifying that. And so the feminine energy part of it you're discussing is that unstructuredness, is that sort of is that correct?
Yes, yes. And, we can call it feminine, masculine. We can call it sun, moon. We can call it
Right.
yin, yang. There's so many ways to identify with the certain energy systems, left brain, right? If we want to get more scientific with it. But it is connecting with the equal amounts of both to create, right? It's the totality of the experience, the totality of ourselves, which ranges in so many different fractals and so many different facets. And yes, connecting to that so that we are able to become more capable. We're able to connect more deeply with who we are, not only from an energetic standpoint, but from a physical standpoint as well.
So just to clarify for the audience about fractals are, it's a mathematical thing. They're algorithms that exist quite naturally in the world, in the universe. And it's these layers of sort of self-similarity, of patterns that we see that show themselves over and over again at different levels. So I just wanted to bring, so that people have this idea of what when we're talking about fractals, what specifically we're talking about, so they don't get a little lost. But I've done a lot of question asking. I don't want to take up all the time in the air in the room when we've got the beautiful Jacqueline Way here with us, who I know is waiting to ask a question. So I'm going to come over to you for a minute, but I want to come back.
So many questions. I have so many questions. Yeah. I love that we got into the whole, you're sharing the flow, because I think this is such a big part of the learning for everyone, especially now we're in the new year, we're talking about our own well-being, is that sense of flow easily coming through us. And you and I in the green room, before we started this interview today, you were sharing with us, you have a really interesting trip coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about your trip?
Yes, yes. So I am headed beginning of March to the Wudang Mountains to study with a grandmaster with Wushu and Qigong and Kung Fu Fan, and just returning back to my origin, which is I am Mongolian Chinese. And I'm so, so excited to dive deep into the ancestry of where this energy has come from. Because when I started moving in this way, when it first started coming through, it was something very primal, very ancient. Like it was a knowledge I knew from many, many lifetimes before. And a lot of times when people witness me, they go, wow, are you trained in Bagua? Are you trained in Tai Chi? Because this move is exactly what it was like in this form of classic Tai Chi training. And I laugh because I've personally never taken a formal class. I just know how the energy feels and what I want to happen through the visualization and through the connection to my breath. And so when I've had so many people come up, and I knew that this was going to be a part of this unfolding in my journey, and it was time to go and back to the homeland because I haven't been back since I left when I was 5. And I wanted to not go to the city because that's where I was brought up. I left there very young, and my memories are only of city life and being in the front seat of my father's bicycle. So returning back to the mountains, the nature of China, I'm very, very, very excited about.
Mm. I love that. Thank you for sharing that journey, because I think, for all of us, I always like to think we all somewhere in us have this eat, pray, love journey. For those, out there that have read the book, obviously it's been a popular one, but to take that time for yourself and really know that you're going to discover more about yourself. And one of the things that you were sharing with us is that you're actually relearning your language right now, your native language that you had lost. And every morning you're getting up and you're practicing this, and it's become part of your practice. And we were talking about flow, and I want to tie this right back into flow, where you're hoping as you practice that it's going to become just natural to you again. There'll be something very primitive about the language that somewhere in your body, it's held the memory of that language for you when you were 5 years old, and it will start to flow through you. And so you and I had started talking about, how do we, the work that you do that really resonated with me, that sense of flow, that it naturally comes through you. Now you've set up a practice, but can you talk to us about that flow where, the practice goes from being a practice every day, or we talked about New Year's resolutions when we started the room today. Resolutions are these things where it's like, every day you got to come to the day to practice that resolution. But how do we go from it being a intentional practice every day to become something more, to become that flow state? Talk to us about that state of being versus the practice and moving towards that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times in just the way that we live our lives, we all are so like, okay, we're going to do this thing. And now it's a to-do list. And it's like, okay, I need to relax. So I need to get a massage. So I'm going to go get a massage. But it's not about it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's what energy do you want to bring? What do you want to feel? And so when we can be in the most opportune place for meditation with all the things, sound bowls and baths, but if your inner state of being is like so wrapped up in wanting to be something, right? That's what creates the separation. So inviting us, I think the biggest thing is allowing us to surrender to everything that we're feeling and not judging ourselves, because when we judge, we hold it. Like we become responsible for it or something. And it's okay to feel these what quote unquote negative feelings, but not becoming attached to this is who I am now, but more as this is the energy that's moving through me in this moment of time. And I have the opportunity to choose if I want to hold on to that, or if I allow it to just let it move through me and I release it back into the universe. And so when we have the opportunity to create space for that intention to shift. It's more about inviting ourselves to be open to the energy we want to bring in. So relaxing into ourselves and inviting and just seeing how we can become that energy and allowing our bodies to move in that way of, okay, I have a movement called bathing in radiance. I'm now literally bathing in radiance, and I'm allowing that radiant energy to wash through this frustration or this anger or this grief and let it be washed away. And then not just being like, okay, practice, so now I'm in my daily life, right? But the meditations and the movements are all about how do you move through life on an everyday, moment by moment basis? And can we come and take that practice and see it while even when we're in the car driving or even when we're waiting in the grocery store, in the most mundane, boring parts of our life, can we just still feel like, oh, I'm bathing in radiance, like I am radiance, even being here right now, even frustrated, like I can just allow myself to relax. And so taking those visualizations and bringing that into our daily life is really, really important. That's how we integrate.
I love that. Thank you so much. So, one thing that I think is really relevant here is how, when we talk about wellness, this is our wellness month. We're looking at different strategies and tools to reset and, keep ourselves in that good space, to get to that good space and to keep ourselves there. And I think so many people get caught up in, I have to get the massage. I have to do the meditation. I have to call my friends. I have to eat well. I have to, and then that is so stressful. Like the insanity of just trying to be well is, off the chart. And we're like, I'm doing all the right things. Why am I stressed?
Why is it working?
Exactly. Why is it? Right.
Why
So
don't
it's
I feel better?
Exactly. So the intention is good, but I think it's important to see, how do we move from intention to action in a way that honors and fulfills the intention, so that we in fact achieve our goals, that we fulfill the intention that we have of truly bringing ourselves into a better state of being and sustain that better state of being, which I believe is what you're sharing with us, right, Ting Ting?
Yes, yes, and say, what energy? Yes, you want to be more calm, you want to be this and that. It's not that you have to have something else in order to do it. Yes, the GuanJing practice is a great way to feel what it's like and create that space, but then taking that and applying it into everything in your, if you want to be more relaxed, and do everything in a more relaxed way. Walking, like the biggest thing for me is I live in Los Angeles, so the traffic is definitely a beautiful teacher. And so, maybe in my 20s, I would have been like annoyed and trying to cut people off and trying to get to the place faster. But now I see the traffic and I turn up my favorite songs and I dance in my car, and I just give way to and surrender into the experience of like, okay, I'm going to be about 20 minutes late, but you know what? It's okay.
It sounds a little bit also like, profound acceptance. I'm not going to say radical acceptance, but really accepting where we are, because that dissonance is friction, and that friction is a resistance from flow. I mean, this is, it's a science.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that part and parcel of what you're saying is so practical, insofar as if we stay present. And at Humanity's team, we're all about being truly present and being in that state of conscious presence. This is what we're talking about, that allows us to release our energy in a way that allows us vitality, while also giving us peace. Because, excuse me, I remember thinking once upon a time that peace was like being half dead. You're just too calm. But I found that in fact, because I'm like, wow, I'm so active and I've got so much enthusiasm and I'm an extrovert and blah, blah, blah.
That was so true.
It's so true. But I found that when I was able to calm, I like to say, as a neuroscientist, that your brain is a tool. And like any tool, you pick it up and use it when you need it. And when you don't, you put it down. So we don't need to always be thinking. We don't need to always be having this, rah, rah, rah in the head. And so, and that's a way of thinking of, being calm and being peaceful. And does that mean that we're just, not at all, because we release all that is not needed, not necessary noise. We release noise. We release resistance. We release friction. And releasing that resistance is not in a way of saying, well, I'm just going to let everything happen. It's being engaged and having that dynamic, which is that balance, like we talked about, the yin and the yang.
Yes.
So I'm wondering now, having said all of that, if you might start to really move us into more understanding of how can we, when we get blocked and stuck and have that resistance, how can we start to release emotions that are stuck within us through these movements, through your methodology? Can you give us a little bit more of that meat and potatoes?
Yes, yes. So I'll give you an example. That's the best way I could share with you. So there is on the training in the Enter the Chi, one of the basic forms is called Amplifying Radiance. And this works with the toroidal field of the heart. And so the energetics of GuanJing are all based around movement, moving through and around the heart, because the heart is the seat of our soul. It is the most beautiful place where intuition rests. And the more that we connect and appreciate and listen to that energy, we begin to experience life from a heartfelt place. We get led into heartfelt situations and people, and essentially that's all what we're coming back to. We all want to come back to love, to connection, to oneness. And in regards to the energy of the heart space, the heart has the biggest amount of electric and magnetic charge out of any other organ of the body. I think it's almost like 600 times greater than the brain, which is crazy. It's a miracle. And so when we think of the heart's energy system, if you want to think of it in a more etheric way, it is actually the auric field of our body, because it carries information, it carries the stories, it has the history of everything that we've experienced from the soul place. And so in Amplifying Radiance, the repetition is we're envisioning that the energy, we're pulling the energy from the core of the earth, the light from the core of the earth with our hands. Our hands are the magnets for this, and our hands are actually a direct extension of our heart. And so when we're pulling this energy up from the hands, we're letting it travel up the center channel, the spine. We ignite the heart space. We let it travel through the center of the brain, the third eye, through the top of the head, and we're holding it above us. And then as we paint, we're painting that energy down and around and envisioning that the hands are painting the exhale of our breath, cleansing and clearing our field. And so we're not only doing this from just imagining, right? I think people underrate the power of our imagination. Everything we imagine in our life, we create. And so when we direct our energy, and this is the magic, we begin to send intentional information through the layers of our body, through this field of information, to begin to then take away that emotional sort of like jaw clench of what that experience, traumatic experience from the event was, and we begin to loosen it. And so we get to create space. And what do we want to bring after we create space? We bring in peace, we bring in love. And when we have spaciousness, then we're able to, right, empty our cup a bit from all the other stuff and then fill it back up with the things that we intentionally want to call into our lives. And it makes us more magnetic. It makes us more authentic. It allows us to be in the flow of life, because we're connecting to that flow of breath. We're intentionally dancing and creating with it through our electromagnetic field. And then we're breathing it back in, and becomes this circular dance between the elements, between the breath, between your body.
Beautiful. I love that. You know, we had a chat just before the holidays. And, you know, I know for a lot of people around the holiday season, a lot of emotions can come up, especially when we're having time with our families, which are always a beautiful trigger point for us all to learn from. But one of the things that come up, and I think especially moving into the new year, is this sense of expectation. And expectations can be a little difficult. I'm going to go back to our New Year's resolutions again, is that sometimes we make these resolutions and there's this expectation that we have to meet all those resolutions we are making. So let's say it's a weight loss resolution, or it's I'm going to exercise resolution. We'll pick some of the basic ones that are pretty popular out there. And then there's an expectation on yourself that you're going to go out and fulfill those. And there are times we disappoint ourselves. And what I love about the work that you do is it's our opportunity, because for me, expectations, and I'm just going to speak from a personal perspective, are always charged with a lot of emotion as well. So the expectation can be, I expect my husband to do certain things or to behave a certain way. I expect from myself to show up with a certain amount of excellence or commitment to myself to do the practices that I know best feed my heart, feed my soul, get me into a flow state. And a lot of disappointment can be attached to that as well. How can we use your work, or can you talk to us about your work and how we can release both the expectations that a lot of time hold us to, whether it's a past relationship or past things in our life, or that we're also holding on to in our days right now, where that expectation is charged with some emotion and they collide into each other on a regular basis. Somebody doesn't meet your expectation of how you want them to be, and all of a sudden you're dealing with emotions of anger, disappointment, frustration. How can we start to put those together and then use your work to make that part of our practice and part of our ritual to release that in our life?
You know, frustration, the emotion of frustration comes from our inability to see that it's trying to direct us into a different direction, whether that's physically, whether that is energetically with a person. You know, sometimes it's especially in more, say, romantic relationships, right? I would say that's the best example. We have these expectations from our partner of who we want them to be or who we see them as, because we often put people on a pedestal and being like, oh my God, I see them as this beautiful, expanded human that's so kind and sweet. And then the reality is they're dealing with their own things, right? And instead of being frustrated that they're not meeting you where you want them to be, we can have more compassion, deepen into compassion of everyone is dealing with something. And people are all doing the best that they can in the methods that they can know how to utilize and have already integrated in themselves. So the way I see it, when we're dealt with frustration, whether that's a relationship or a situation, it's just a signal for us that how can we graciously move through that challenge rather than trying to like jackhammer our way through it. GuanJing actually translates to the essence or the spirit of the mountain path. So moving through life with the graciousness of the wind and the water flowing through the most challenging and rockiest of mountains, and allowing ourselves to navigate all those things with our own grace. Like, how are we showing up for this rather than being forceful? We can just breathe in whatever it is and just surrender and release to that flow while consciously directing our energy system.
So that makes me think about connection and disconnection. We had a conversation about that. And what do we connect to and what do we disconnect from? I remember you were talking about meditation, how so many people are coming into meditation as a way to disconnect, and they're disconnecting, which is exactly not what we want. What we want is to be more connected to ourselves, to each other, to life, to love. And so I wonder if you could help us understand how these movements that you teach us, how they help us to be in that more connected space where we have that proper balance of connecting more with myself when I want to, more with others when I'm ready to, depending upon whether I'm more introverted or extroverted, or how I feel when my energy's lower or when it's higher. So can you help us to understand how this movement helps us to manifest through that connection and disconnection?
Yeah, I think the most important key here is presence. When we are disconnected, we're not present to what is in front of us or the conversation or the energy. And so with the GuanJing movements, we have to be present in order to be able to have the connection to our breath, to the elements, to our bodies. There's this level of discipline that's required in order for us to do the movements properly, which is a way of training ourselves to continue to be more present in other areas of our lives. So, for example, when say you're outside, you're practicing GuanJing, you're like, okay, I'm tuning into the rhythm of the breath. The rhythm of the breath is creating the life force energy of the body. And so we're dancing with that energy and allowing the breath to be the lead dance partner. So we have to connect our breath right through that dance.
Beautiful.
The inhales expansion, the exhale, we release and send energy out. And so then while we're doing that, we're connecting with the elements around us, breathing in the wind, breathing in the water, breathing in the sun, the way that the birds are chirping, the way that the trees are rustling, connecting with that natural essence of the elements through the body, through the breath, then dancing with the body and directing that energy of the elements and accentuating where we want to send it. Whether that's amplifying radiance when we're pulling it up the center channel of the spine, whether it's the radiant waterfall, we're washing energy and we're connecting to the water element. It then kind of pushes us into this presence of what we're feeling in that moment of time, where we are in that moment of time, in the acceptance, in the rhythm of the breath, and then utilizing that in everyday life and being more present to how we're breathing and the way that we're breathing as someone is telling us something, or the way that our energy system is reacting while there is maybe a car accident that happens in front of us, or we get into a challenging situation. And then that presence will give us the connection to our heart so that we're led from a heartfelt place, so that things aren't so tough, right? Because what makes it tough is our opinion of it, our perspective of it. Nothing is good or bad. Everything can simply just be. And it's just releasing that expectation, releasing the judgment, releasing the good or bad, and allowing ourselves to be present to what is.
Thank you for that. So I'll talk a little bit from the scientific perspective. When we are stressed or in fear, we tend to hold our breath. We contract. We are not open. We are not flowing. We're not receiving and giving. We're very contracted. Our body language, for those who are interested in that field of understanding expressions, micro expressions, and body language, and reading that, we tend to hold our breath when you're in a movie and something scary happens. What do we go? You're rolled up, you've held your breath, and you're waiting, you're anticipating, you're expecting, you're in fear, right? And when you just open up, then there's that landscape that's available to us becomes broader.
Yes.
And that energy that can come in that we can harness, right? So it's available to us how we want to do that. And that physiologically, we have the autonomic nervous system that has a sympathetic and parasympathetic branches that respond to stress and or relaxation. They work like the brakes and the gas, I like to say. So what you're saying is rooted in how our body responds to our state of mind and our state of mind to our state of body.
Mm-hmm.
That allows this flow and this movement that we can then direct to where we want, which can help us to choose differently, have more options from what we'd like to choose. And this idea of manifestation that is very much connected to emotion, because emotion organizes cognitive activity. It is connected very much to our executive function. So our planning for something and then our fulfilling those plans. And so when we come into a calmer state, into a more a beautiful state of emotion, then it very much helps to direct and puts us in the driver's seat to direct what our decisions will be, what we receive, and then how we will respond. And the receiving, the responding is how we move through everyday life on a very practical, tractable, scientific, spiritual, emotional level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is quite anchored in is another way of looking at and strategizing how we are all day anyway, but just being present to it so that we can be, because our physical bodies very much dictate how we feel. And so being present to our internal and external environment, and our body being a controller of that environment, very much dictates how we feel. And everybody wants to feel better, wants to feel good. And so if we want to feel fulfilled, if we want to feel okay with whatever's going on, because on the one hand, it's directing, but then you detach, as I heard you talking about this earlier, detaching ourselves from the outcome, because we don't control outcomes, but we do have the power to move ourselves into different states and therefore to affect our internal and external environment. Is that right?
Yes. Hit the nail right on the head.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so maybe we go into strategies now, Jacqueline. What do you think?
Well, I
Or
do, but I have one
moment.
quick questions. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I want to do that. And I want to tie it back to something that's, for me, really important. It's actually one of our missions here with the show, Mindset, Heartset, Reset. And that's all about love. I'm the girl that's all about love. So I want to tie it back to this, because I think that so much of what I hear from you and this expression, this practice, the devotion that you talk about so much of as well. Talk to us about the devotion and how it's connected to love for you.
Love is continuous, never-ending devotion, right? Love is always expanding. It's always deepening. There's no shadow on love. You're always, everything in your life can be love. And so I like to think of it as like what's the energy that we're giving? How much energetically can we give our love? That is our devotion. Whether that's a loving touch or just making a small little altar, or that extra kiss you give to your cat or dog, or just the way you're kindly giving a parking spot to a stranger. How are we showing up for the world, and how is that a communication of what you want to receive with universe? What is it that you want to bring more into your life? And just being that which you want to see in the world is really important. So I think, again, it all comes back to, I think every human on this planet wants to feel loved, wants to feel supported, wants to feel community, wants to feel expansive. And that is our devotion, is to keep sharing with everyday life, with whatever challenges you're facing, in a loving, heartfelt place that is in complete witnessing of the present moment, and you know, with the movements of GuanJing, being able to experience that within our own bodies first, because how can we share it if we haven't experienced something, right? So experiencing it with GuanJing first and being able to give yourself that spaciousness of breathing and connecting and that moment of non-judgment of your body or whatever's going on in your mind first. And as you practice that within your own being and recirculating that continuous devotion to love to yourself, first and foremost, then it's like the cup runneth over and it just starts to spill into all these different areas of your life. You're able to expand and feel free. And that is the goal.
I love that you said that and tied it in. And Roshanak, I know you have a comment you want to make too. And, you know, I want to make sure everybody heard what you said, because I think that it's so important that we talk about self-love. And I think sometimes we get stuck on that concept, that term self-love, that we've got to look in the mirror and keep telling ourselves we're beautiful. And if we affirm it enough times, one day we're going to convince ourselves we're as beautiful as that person we saw on Instagram that we're keep comparing ourselves to. And instead, what I really heard from you is that self-love is really us being love. It's expressing our true nature. It's us coming out into the world. And I heard this earlier from you as well, is when you use your arms as that extension out from your heart center, and with our hearts being our strongest, and that's coming out into your hands, out through your arms, and we're giving that freely to the world. That is not self-love. That is literally love of self coming out to the world around us. And it was just so beautiful. And I want to, you know, I think if that's part of our series, and Dr. Roshanak, you know, you and I have talked about this, but this is, I know, a part for me with our series is we talk about well-being, we talk about mental health, but when people begin to understand what you just said, that it's not self-love, but it's love expressing itself, all of a sudden there's a whole new shift, a whole new way that we're looking at it, that now that energy you're talking about, that you're practicing through your work, it's coming through us, right? And I love that you said that. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that's such a big, important part. Dr. Roshanak?
Yes, and that's connected to what I wanted to say too, is this idea of appreciation, which is, Ting Ting, what you were saying before about being present to the sun or the birds or the water or the air or and that appreciation of it opens us up. And Jacqueline has always heard me say this. I'm always talking about being in love, and people think that's a romantic thing, but it's in this being in the state of love, which is our natural state of being, which allows for all the good that we're looking for. And when you talk about devotion being love and love being devotion, then it also brings in, when we want to fulfill our intentions, the word commitment, right? There's appreciation and commitment. And this commitment to being in love, to expressing that love. What is our commitment to? How are we going to live that commitment all the time, so that if we are stuck in the traffic, like you were saying, it doesn't dysregulate us, it doesn't throw us off, and we can have the acceptance. But that doesn't mean that we've just thrown up our arms and given up. It means we're present to the truth of the situation, and then we're also present to how we can manage it best, because we're not like this holding our breath, right? So I really love that you brought that component, that definition, that devotion is love and love is devotion. And Jacqueline, I just love how you show, even if we just do this for a minute, if everybody just did this, everyone in the audience, whoever's watching, just do this for a minute.
Right? It comes
And look at how and take that breath in, that. How does that change immediately your state? And that's what I'm talking about. These bodies are controllers of our state of being. So I love, Ting Ting, how you're showing us the truth of that movement of energy through us is quite real, as we just saw in this moment of breath connected to body, and how we immediately changed our state. So thank you for that. Jacqueline, I'll come back to you.
Now, masterclass. Let's, we don't want to miss it. Our time's almost done for today. I can't believe it. We could keep going on this for endlessly today. We all need this. It's January 2nd. Here we go. Right? We're not messing around. The reality is that
we're committed.
We want a year filled with love. I think we would all love a year filled with love. And your masterclass is going to set everybody right on track. So can you tell us about the masterclass, what we can expect from it, where can we sign up? Jem, let's get that link on here so that everybody knows where they can sign up. Ting Ting, tell us about your new masterclass on Humanities Team.
Yes, this one is called Enter the Chi. So it's an introduction of how to bring more life force energy into the body, where to direct it, what's going on with the systems of the body. It's for anyone who's curious about this movement form GuanJing. It is a more yin-based class. So this series is, you're not breaking a sweat or having to do a lot of strenuous work, but it's more about just allowing ourselves to open up to the experiences that we can feel in our bodies, and getting into ranges of motion that feel safe and that can begin to increase our mobility, increase our strength gradually. So we're going to be moving through learning each basic form one step at a time. And then afterwards, we'll link one basic form with the next basic form. And so by the end, you'll learn, 3, 4, 5, 6 basic forms, and you'll be able to link them together and to create this fluid dance of circular spiral shapes. And then from there, we'll go on to the next set, which is the next series of new basic forms, learn how to link that. And it's a really, really beautiful way. It's a really beautiful introduction into GuanJing. These are the preliminary postures that I've developed. And then from there is going to be so much more to come. So I'm very excited to share.
That's amazing. And, we usually have this question that we round off our show with, and I'm not actually going to ask you because I'm going to answer it because I've already got the answer. So we usually say to everybody, if there was one thing you could say to people to get them off the couch, the get them off the couch moment and go take action in their own lives for themselves. And I'm going to tell everybody what it is today. Sign up for this masterclass. Humanities Team is making it free for everyone. This is your moment of time where you can make that choice. Make that choice for yourself. Choose you to go and do this class because it's going to benefit you and it's going to benefit everyone around you. Just starting to practice with Ting Ting and starting to find your own rhythm, understanding your own connection. That's the best way you can start off the new year. So thank you so much, Ting Ting. I'm so excited to take the class myself. I'm already signed up. And I'm looking forward from us all being able to learn from you. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience before we leave today? Can you tell, first of all, where people can find you? Because there's one place everybody's got to go find you that I like to follow you everywhere.
Yes. The easiest way to follow my journey is on Instagram. So it's
go
One
look at
Soul.
it.
And there's also GuanJing Method, which is the official GuanJing Method page. And I guess I would like to just say that the more that we surrender, the more we are supported. And that is just deepening into the support of through others, through ourselves, but just allowing us to surrender into the beautiful, many multi-directional ways that life can just bring the beauty of experience through us. So surrendering to that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Dr. Roshnak?
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you so much, Ting Ting, for having joined us and for opening up our eyes and bringing to our attention the importance of how we move, how that energy that moves through us affects our state of being, our decision making, every moment of our lives, of our day, of the year that we want to fill with love, with fulfillment, with achievement of expressing all that is in us that we'd like to bring forth to others, and starting us off on our wellness journey for the month. So thank you so much, first of all, to you for that.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you.
There you go.
Thank you. And to all of you who've joined us, thank you so much for joining us. And for my beautiful co-host, my amazing, you should all have a co-host like this, friend, colleague, whatever, like Jacqueline Way, who is an inspiration, who is love, and who keeps me in line and keeps my energy flowing well, and holds down the fort when I've got technical difficulties. So I really appreciate you, Jacqueline, and all of you who've chosen to come and listen and to join us. This is our month for wellness. Everybody in January wants a reset, wants to start over. We landmark January as a time to pay attention and to be present, as Ting Ting, you were saying, to what's really important for us, our intentions, our objectives. So Jacqueline and I decided that the whole month of January, we're going to focus on different aspects of wellness. So this is, in fact, our month for that. And our show is on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT, 6 p.m. Central European time, and so on and so on. And it's always live, so you can ask the questions. I know I've got all the time zones, but it's also recorded, so you can come back and listen to other things, or if you miss something, a part of this show, a part of a part or a complete previous show, or whatever, we do have those recordings, and we have coming up. Not next Tuesday, where we have Ting Ting on again on Humanity's team, but the following and all the following Tuesdays, we've got, for example, on I believe it's the 16th is the following week. Is that right? The 16th of January, we've got Heather Gritch joining us, who is profoundly well-versed in Ayurveda and fertility, and can speak to us about how the other aspects of our environment will affect us, and can speak to us further about Ayurveda, about the ways in which our body is affected by what we bring into it more physically than energy, and how that connection between what we're talking about today, energy and matter, how that really can affect us, and how we can use that, how we can harness that to get into a better space. And after that, we've got Misha Hyman with us, who will talk to us about food as medicine. He is the son of Dr. Hyman, and he's a chef, and he's extraordinary. He's a great person. He's got beautiful energy, and he'll talk to us about food and nourishment and nutrition, and how that affects us and our body and our energy. And then we've got Pete Cohen, who will move us further into the coaching of ourselves, and how, and he'll round out the month, and how we can move better in our decisions and in exercise and in the strategies that we use to gain our objectives. So we've got a lot going on for the rest of this month with respect to our wellness, and we hope that you'll join us for that. And I'll take a moment to come back to you, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Well, thank you. We're going to wrap. Our time is done. Ting Ting, thank you for being with us. We wish everyone a new year filled with love, abundance, prosperity,
fulfillment,
most of
joy,
all,
happiness.
I know we can keep going, right? It's a long list.
Keep going. Lots of laughter, great energy, vitality.
Exactly. Now we're on a roll. Perfect. So thank you. We will see you all next week. Have a beautiful day on purpose.